Hey everybody, welcome to the D. Louise book series. It's Christina Kristina. This is where we read books, talk about books. No special effects here. I could use your likes and subscribes though. I seem to be very slow in that particular category. I have watched other channels and they just explode. They have theme music, they have talent. I have no talent. They have artistic creation, they have got all this stuff going for them. They've got thousands upon thousands of subscribers, and I don't. So if you know anybody, spread the word. I'm here. It's just little me reading books, talking books. We're doing the Women's Murder Club now. We're doing J.D. Robb, Jana D. Leon. We're going to be starting Victoria Thompson soon. We've done vampires this last year. Carolyn Sparks, Lindsay Sands, Laurel K. Hamilton. We did Janet Ivanovich all through December. We've done a lot. Over 400 books. Over 500 videos, and it's just little of me hanging out here. No one has found me yet. No one has seen me yet. And according to the analytics, you've already clicked off. You're not even here anymore. I'm just talking to myself. Oh well. Well, here we are in season 4. We are at the final disc 6. And we've got the Drumhead, Half a Life, the Host, and the Mind's Eye. We're finishing up the disc. We're finishing up the season. We should have ended the season with Goodbye Wesley Crusher, but no, we started the season with Goodbye Wesley Crusher. I miss Wesley Crusher. The series has a different feel without him. We've had our ensigns come and go from his chair. The males having no lines, the females getting all the lines. So it's been a fun season. We're not quite done yet. We've still got a couple more weeks to go yet. Remember, every Friday, this comes up, so please check me out. So I've got something I want to talk about today. It didn't hit me till afterwards. I was watching this. I had some comments. And I wanted to say that, well, there's a couple of things I want to say, but I thought, and I am wrong in assuming that we have evolved. Come here. Come here. My co-host is here. She does not want to say hello. She's not happy being on camera. Not at all. Not at all. Come here. Yes. Yes, I know. But I did get a new shirt. Do you like it? I've lost so much weight. I'm trying to get some new t-shirts. And I bought this by accident. I was like, oh, wow, cool. Cool beans. I'm glad I found this. So I've got a new shirt. Space Force. But I wanted to say that I was hoping, and I guess I was wrong, that we have evolved a little bit further in the 24th century, but I guess we have not. And we don't really find out the story behind it. We're just left with questions at the end about the ambassador. But I have some comments that may be interesting. This is Drumhead, episode 195, and it's a lot of mob mentality type thing, and I'm glad it's put to a stop right away, because it could get massively out of hand. I don't know, this thing in January, maybe, that thing that happened. It only takes one. Mob mentality is great. I have they talk about the Drumhead in here. A court is a military court-martial held in the field to render summary justice for offenses committed in action. The term is said to originate from drums used as improvised tables and drumheads as writing services at fast-track military trials and executions. The earliest recorded use of the term is in English memoir of the Peninsular War in 1807. The term sometimes has connotations of summary justice with implied lack of judicial impartiality. During World War II, it was used in Nazi stuff. But if my table shakes, it's my co-host. She's rubbing herself against the table. Gotta mark it as hers. Absolutely gotta mark it as her territory. But I have some. I always bring this article up when we're talking mob mentality situation here. I compiled and transcribed 28 genealogical books, and they can be found in about 10 libraries across the United States, I think. I don't think more than 10. I've been talking to a publisher, and he sounded enthusiastic. I did not see a field for these books anymore because Ancestry and Family Search are free. So why would you want to pay for something when you can get it for free from Family Search or Ancestry, and the stuff is there? And that was like back in October, November. And I've heard zero from them. The books were written 20 years ago, so I did them. Back then, the market was hot, and I had a website back then, NYNYVAGENEALOGY, genealogy at homestead.com. And because I don't have any money, the website is extinct now. However, I called the Homestead the other day, and I said, just hypothetically, is my website still out there in the stratosphere someplace? And the guy said, yes, we can restore it for $400. I was like, okay, nice to know. Talk to you later. And I was quite disappointed that I wasn't offered, oh, hey, look, we're running a special right now, or something. None of that. They were like, okay, goodbye. All that information just gone. I got rid of all the books, too. They're gone, too. So even if I got the website back, people wanted lookups, it's gone. All of it's gone. I've gotten rid of everything. I've been so busy with books, and I've had to replace the genealogy with books. Because I had that website for 20 years, and nobody wanted the lookup, so what the hell? What am I doing with all these if no one's... And they weren't any pertinent to me. I kept the ones pertinent to me. But the other stuff wasn't. But in my research, in my... while I was compiling the genealogical materials, I was also correlating with newspaper stuff. So I also indexed the newspaper. And that's why I got all these articles. I threw most of them away because they are now available on websites for free. But I did save a few of my my most interesting to talk about. Let's put that. This woman is hung by mob mentality because they assumed that she killed her husband. So in order to get her to confess to something that she probably did not do, they hung her or tried to hang her. So she confesses, and then they bring her down and she waits trial. And my child has just gone bonkers. I don't know what she sees. But anyways, couple of weeks later, her husband shows up. He had been house hunting in another state. But because she was African American and because there were people that decided, oh yeah, she did it, that and the mob mentality believed the situation, they were going to hang her. But he's like, I was looking for a new house. And this is in the 1870s. So, I mean, it took a couple of weeks to get to where he was going to find a new house for his family. So, the mob mentality can get really out of hand, and we'll talk about this again. But the episode starts, Captain's Log, Stardate 44769.2. For some weeks, we have had a Klingon exobiologist on board as a part of a scientific exchange program. Unfortunately, we suspect that he was involved in a security breach and the possible sabotage of our warp drive. So, they're all in this room, and I would like to point out that he doesn't have as much makeup on as Worf does, and he's much smaller. I don't know why. I'm always, whenever they have Klingons on the show, they're always big, huge, shoulder pad stuff, and he's really small. And his whole attitude is wrong too, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Riker's questioning him. What were you doing accessing the propulsion system files on Stardate 44758? I didn't. Riker says, yes, you did. From computer 12B9, deck 36. The computer logged in your identification from your communicator. G-Dan, it must be a mistake. Troy says, G-Dan, we confirmed reports that schematic drawings of our dilithium chamber fell into Romulan hands 1 week later. Zidane says, I don't know nothing about it. Riker says, I suppose you know nothing about the explosion that disabled the warp drive at approximately the same time. Zidane says, no, I was not involved. You accuse me because I am Klingon. Troy says, our security officer is Klingon. That has nothing to do with it. Zidane says, send me home if you are so distrusting. Riker says, we have already contacted Klingon High Council. You'll be returned home as soon as we finish our investigation. Zidane says, I have nothing more to say. Jadan says, well, Worf accompanied Lieutenant to his quarters, and they leave. Riker asks Troy, what do you think? She says, it's hard to tell. He's very closed, but he is hiding something. Oh, just a little more of a close-up to see what I meant. He just looked a little smaller than I picture Klingons to be, sorry. So, this kind of bothers me a little bit. He purposely picks a fight with Worf. Like, they're supposed to be comrades because they're the same species. They come from the same place. Like, hey, we're New Yorkers, we need to bond. Or, hey, we're from the United States, we need to bond type thing. But he not only tries to do that, but he tries to pick a fight at the same time. He provokes him. And I don't understand why you wouldn't you want to be winning Worf over to your side of things? Why do you come right out and poke him where he hurts most? His vulnerable little situation going on there. Zidane says, on the Klingon world, your name is not mentioned. It is as though you never existed. A terrible burden for a warrior to bear, to become nothing, to be without honor, without the chance for glory. Zidane says, I have friends, powerful friends on the homeworld. I could talk to them. They might help to restore your name if you could just take me to a shuttle. Zidane says, it could be done without anyone knowing it. And Worf hits him. I don't know how you transferred secret information to the Romulans, but I will find out. Zidane says, Patak. And Worf says, when we inform the Klingon High Council, they will put you to a slow death. And all of this, it just makes him look more guilty. It's just like, yeah, I did it. I'm trying to bribe my way out of this situation. But he does it the wrong way, and he's just provoking Worf. He's He's just provoking him. He's like, see, bullying. It just doesn't. It's hot. For this type of show with this popularity, they should not be promoting this kind of stuff. They should not be promoting schoolyard tactics. It just doesn't work. So then, okay, so after opening credits, we get Captain's Log Supplemental. Retired Admiral Nora Satie, whose investigation exposed the alien conspiracy against Starfleet Command 3 years ago, is arriving to assist in our inquiry. She arrives, she comes over, she greets Captain Picard, he greets her, he says, welcome aboard the Enterprise. She introduces her staff. He's a Betazoid and her assistant. And she says, Starfleet Command was so concerned with your report that they brought me out of retirement. I think I should get right to work. Picard says, very well, Commander, will you see to the Admiral's death? And she wants to go see the damage in engineering first. Okay, so they go into engineering, and Picard says, Admiral Satie, this is Commander Data and Commander LaForge. LaForge says, Admiral, we still can't get in there, Captain. The radiation level is dropping, but they're too high to raise the isolation door. Picard says, how much longer will it be? Data says, at the rate the levels are decreasing, we will gain entry in 49 hours, Captain. LaForge says, maybe the Admiral would like to see the visual log of the explosion. She says yes, and then they show her the log. Let me see if I can pull that up. And they're all watching the replay. This was logged 4 days ago at 0300 hours. At that point, the emergency confinement field was activated and the isolation came down when the explosion happened. No one was killed. I have 2 people in sickbay from radiation burns. Satie says, have you been able to make any assessments? Data says, a slow motion study of the explosion suggested the articulation frame collapsed. Satie says, the schematics that were stolen from the Enterprise, I believe some involved the articulation frame of the dilithium chamber. Picard says, that's one reason we tend to suspect sabotage. Data says, other evidence levels credence to that theory, Captain. A review of other sensor logs indicate that every system reading was well within normal, within the parameters with 52 milliseconds before the explosion. We haven't found anything that suggests there was a malfunction anywhere along the line. Satie says, Captain, I think I'm going to need a full briefing before we go any further. Picard says, by all means, Admiral. Satie says, Commander Data LaForge, I don't envy your job. Good luck. Okay, so then the Commander, Picard, and Admiral Satie are having a talk. Picard says, there are disturbing overtones in the idea of a Klingon providing information to the Romulans. Are you aware of any other Klingon-Romulan connection that Starfleet Command might have encountered recently? Satie says, I don't believe what Starfleet Command knows or doesn't know is for me to reveal. Picard said, this ship has encountered several incidents which might suggest a potential alliance between those 2 powers. Satie says, we are aware of that, Captain. What we must concentrate on is this business at hand. And then Worf comes in. And he says he has tracked the movements. Oh, and he comes in and he says that the hypospray is Jajan's. A hypospray is used to treat his Baltimore syndrome, but this has been fitted with an optical reader specifically modified to read data from Starfleet isolinear chips. He can extract digital information from a computer, encode it in the form of amino acid sequences, and transfer the sequences into a fluid in the syringe. Then he ejects someone, perhaps even without their knowledge, or perhaps with their knowledge, Satie says. The information could be carried in the bloodstream in the form of inert proteins. The body itself becomes a conveyor of top-secret files. Lieutenant Worf, when we confront Dan, I want you to conduct the interrogation. Worf says, I would be honored. Captain Admiral, he leaves. Sati says, I predict that the officer will be extremely valuable in this investigation. Now, how are you going to inject it in someone in this spot, and when a medical person is going to be able to take it out from this spot like a computer chip, or is it going to be floating around in the body? And then how are you going to find it if it's floating around in their body? I don't get it. I mean, if it's floating around, y'all have to explain this hypothetical thing that we can do in the future, that we can put fake stuff in someone's body and then get it out just as quickly as we got it in. I don't get it. So then I also think that she's using Worf to make it look unbiased because he's being questioned by his own race. But I think she's doing it to make her case, to back up her suppositions, which she's going to make later. So they confront Jadan, and they show him the hyper ray, and they tell him that it was fitted with the information into biological sequences to transform computer information. And Jadan says the blood of all Klingons has become water. Since the Federation Alliance, we have turned into a nation of mewling babies. Romulans are strong. They are worthy allies. They do not turn Klingons into weaklings like you. Sati says, Lieutenant, how did you damage the dilithium chamber? He said he didn't do it. She said, you mean it was sheer coincidence that it was sabotaged after you gave the plans for the design to the Romulans? He says, I don't know. I had nothing to do with it. He says, you've admitted your crime. Why lie now? Jadan says, I'm not lying. And then Picard has Worf have him confined to his room. And Saban says he's telling the truth. And Saban is the Betazoid guy. And he says he's telling the truth. He admits stealing the files, but not sabotaging the dilithium chamber. I get no sense that he's lying. Because as if you're right, someone else may be involved. Sati says, I think you have a bigger problem on your ship than just one Klingon exchange officer. And this is the first hint of Sati going backwards, upside down, crooked. Okay, so this time we're in her room, and she's serving the tea. She says, I've seen this before. The specter of conspiracy on a starship is a frightening one. But she's the one doing it. She's the one promoting these ideas of a conspiracy theory. She's the one that's on a witch hunt here. And it becomes more and more relevant as the episode moves on. Because it's like, can scarcely believe it myself, but I'm so grateful for your presence, Admiral. If anyone in Starfleet can help us, it's you. And he's doing a little too much kiss-upping for me. I don't like it. He's really pushing the buttons here. And that's before she turns on him. Captain, I find myself changing my mind about you. In what way? When Starfleet ordered me here, it was its express command that we work together on this problem as equals. My father taught me to avoid partnerships. Most of them are woefully lopsided. That sounds a lot like Judge Aaron Sati. She says, you knew my father, he said, only from his writings. His judgments were required readings at academy. Sati says he was an extraordinary man. Every night at the dinner table, he would pose a question for debate. My brothers and I would wrangle around it from one side and another. Father would referee, and he would keep a stopwatch on us so we'd have to learn brevity. But he wouldn't let us leave until we thought we'd completely explored the issue. Picard said, I'm willing to wager you trounced your brothers during those debates. Sati says, more than once. Father loved it, and when I nailed one of them with some subtle point of logic. All that I am, I owe to him. He was a giant. Picard said, you must love him very much. Sati says, Captain, I always preferred working alone. That way, if something goes wrong, I don't have to go far for the cause. I resent you being assigned to me, but I was wrong. We're going to be quite a team. Yeah, right. I don't believe you, lady. I don't. because you're headed down the wrong path, the absolute wrong path. So then Worf is having a private talk with the Betazoid guy Sabin, and for those of you who are probably not even familiar with it, but Laura K. Hamilton has Anita Blake is a vampire hunter, executioner, and during one of the later books, Bloody Bones laughing somewhere further down the line. It's after she starts dating John Claude. So Burnt Orange, not Blue Moon, she's out of town. It's gotta be Burnt Orange, around there someplace. Sabine is a bad guy that starts losing his skin. And every time I hear this name, that's what I think of, is the bad guy from Laura K. Hamilton's book. It's just what I think of. So they're having a little bit of a tete-a-tete about what's going on in the ship. And he's trying to convince Worf to set up interviews with the crew members on the ship. And the whole thing is just, you found the guy that did it. What's with the witch hunt? Why are you going after more people on your ship? So then we're again in the interrogating theater with Barclay did his Shakespearean stuff. And they're questioning Dr. Crusher, and they're asking her if she administered the medication dose, and she says no. She had one of her assistants do it. She didn't do it, so she's dismissed. And then they bring in Simon Tarses, and he comes in, and Picard says, "I assure you, this is informal inquiry. We're not accusing you of anything. However, if you'd like cancer," Tarses says, "No, I have nothing to hide." Picard says, "How long have you held your appointment aboard this vessel?" And he says, "Since this started." And Sati starts attacking him. And you can see it coming right now that he's going to be their little scapegoat for this situation. And it's totally unfair. He was afraid that they wouldn't let him in if he revealed his true heritage. So he chose a different one for his application, and they were able to prove him wrong. So technically, suspend him for lying. I guess that's still a thing even today. If you lie on your application, you're probably still fired if you mislead information on that. But he should have come forward way back when. But they go through the whole process, and one of the things is that he's really nervous. And when you get I should go back up here. Wait a second. Okay. So here we are with the right person. So they have Mr. Tarses come in, and he's one of Beverly Crusher's assistants. And they ask him how long he's had the job, and Sati starts attacking him, that he was born on the Mars colony and that he's partially human. He suggests, but his grandfather was Vulcan. And he gets all nervous and anxious. And the big thing with the Vulcans is they don't show emotion, but Romulans do. So he gets all, frightened and scared. And that's a big, huge red flag, because he's supposed to be Vulcan. And if a Vulcan doesn't show emotion, and he's just going off 6 ways to Sunday about it. So they come after him, something terrible. So they ask him about the injections and stuff like that, and they dismiss him. And the Betazoid guy said he's lying. And all of a sudden, they're on this witch hunt. They're going to investigate this guy to the hilt. They're going to go after his friends and his parents and his siblings and anybody else that exists. They're going to research his life and dissect it, something terrible. And you can see it. It's just. I have this thing and if you've watched some of my videos, it's just, and you can put whatever you word want after that. You can fill in the blank for yourself. It's just, and you finish the sentence. That's up to you. You put whatever words you want in it. It's just. So then Picard starts questioning her. Um, you must not expect me to commit any action against Mr. Charcy solely on the basis of Betazoid intuition. Sabine comes back at him, and Sati comes back at him and says, Sabine has uncanny instincts. I've learned to trust them. Picard says, I am not happy about his use of a Betazoid. Sati says, but you have a Betazoid counselor. Surely you're aware of the advantages. Picard, there is a difference between a counselor and an investigator. Sati says, are you saying you never use your counselor during interrogations? Yes, I do. But I would not act solely on the basis of her instinct. Nor do I. But you're saying you're asking me to restrict Mr. Tarsay's movement solely on the basis of Saban's feelings. Sati said, if Counselor Troy suggested to you that someone was on the ship was dangerous, would you not act or observe him curb his activity? Yes, I probably would, and perhaps I should reevaluate that behavior. Sati says, oh, nonsense. Let's keep our priorities straight. The important thing is to uncover this conspiracy on this ship and to prevent further damage. Now, if this Tarsis is the saboteur, you cannot allow him to access to sensitive areas of the ship, and I strongly suggest continuous surveillance. And she's all of a sudden decided that she's going to go after this poor kid with everything she's got. She's decided that it's him, no one else. It's him. He's the culprit, and she's going to nail his butt to the wall 6 ways descending. And Picard is starting to go, wait. We don't have any evidence. There's nothing to say he did any of this. We have no concrete evidence. Just like our little trial. We learned that on Saturday evening last, great excitement was created in the neighborhood of Blossom Hill by the announcement that a brutal murder had been committed in the vicinity. After some inquiry, our informant ascertained the following facts in reference to the deed. The snapping suspicions of this race of the neighborhood having aroused by the prolonged absence of this man, who had been for 2 weeks missed from his home at Moses Point, where he resided with his wife, Rebecca Martin, and his 2 stepsons and his stepdaughter. And people proceeded to the house on Saturday evening last and accused the wife of having murdered the missing man. This she strenuously denied and stated that she knew nothing of the whereabouts of her husband. And the crowd decided that she murdered him, and they pursued it with the vengeance. And they had no proof. Then they made all these people, they tortured this woman to the point where she's like, yeah, anything to stop the torturing, they're gonna hang me. And then, of course, like I said previously, the guy shows up. He'd been house hunting in another state. And in 1877, it took time to travel great distances. It took weeks to travel, and he was gone like over a month. And they're about to hang this woman. So if anybody could have had a lawsuit, if she had any rights well, she had rights, but not that many rights because of her race. But it's unfair that people still today, and it's unfair. I think it's really unfair that I would have thought we would have evolved even further in the 24th century, but apparently she's from the thing that Romulans are bad just because they're Romulans, and Picard is looking to form a little more working relationship with the Romulans. He's been trying for a while, and that episode with Riker, where he met that little kid, and the little kid set up that whole little scenario, and it was supposed to be like 16 years in the future, and by then they had formed a peace treaty with the Romulans. So, it's you wonder what would have happened if this woman was still alive 16 years later. how she would have felt about a peace treaty with the Romulans. Would she have gone after them so diabolically? So, Picard's going on that we don't have there's no physical evidence that he did this. And she says, we have clear evidence. We will have clear evidence. Sabine and Worf are going to find it. Find it or invent it or create it. Worf should be more loyal. He's trying to help, and he's getting carried away by this whole situation. And I'm sure after thinking about it, and once he talks to Picard later, he's like, he realized he had jumped on the witch hunt bandwagon himself because of all the stuff that Jadan did. But Tyrese has nothing to do with Jadan at all. Nothing. And this poor kid, it's just, and then when Picard tries to help, all right, we'll get there. So while he's talking to her, Geordi calls him down to engineering. So Geordi is telling the captain that they finally got into the engine room they needed to get into about 6 hours ago, and he tells them all the stuff that he was doing. They did microtomographic analysis, and they did spectrometer readings, and they found out that the hatch itself was defective. It was a defective equipment. It was not sabotage. It just the fracture suggests nothing more than a simple neutron fatigue. I would speculate that when the engine was last inspected at McKinley Station, the hatch casing was replaced with one which had an undetectable defect. I believe, sir, that the conclusion to our investigation must be that the explosion was not intentional. LaForge says, the way I see it, it wasn't sabotage at all. It was nothing more than an accident. So then they're back in the ready room, and he's telling everybody what was said. And Sabine is like, he doesn't believe it was an accident. And Picard says, if my crew says there was no sabotage, then you can be sure there was none. And Sati's like, let's keep our perspective, gentlemen. Just because there was no sabotage doesn't mean there isn't a conspiracy on this ship. We do have a confessed spy. Sabine says, and he had Confederates. Picard says, do we know that for sure? Of course he did. Do you think Jadan would have come aboard the flagship of the Enterprise Federation and accomplished what he did without help from within? I agree it would be difficult, but it's not impossible, Picard says. Worf says, we should continue to investigate Tarsis. Now, see, the problem is he's jumped on the bandwagon. He's jumped on the bus with them, and he's riding the wave of conviction that he must be guilty, that because he did this small little thing, he must be guilty of this bigger thing. And Worf has jumped on that bandwagon, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And Picard's the only one with a clear head here. And T goes on to say, because spies and saboteurs don't like the bright light of open inquiry. They're like roaches scurrying for the dark corner. And I have to say that I guess it's good to know, sort of, kind of, that in the 24th century, there are still cockroaches living in our world, that they survived all the nuclear bombs and everything else that went on, that the rumors are true, that they will outlive everything on this planet. So we're going back to some more interrogation. Okay. So even though this poor guy lied about that one little thing, she's out to get him. She is on this witch hunt. She is determined to prove that this guy is a saboteur and a conspirator, and she's out to get him, and she'll do anything she has to to get him convicted, even if he's completely innocent. I got a witch hunt for you. I got a drumhead for you. Even though completely innocent of the other charges, he's guilty of this one little thing over here. But she wants him guilty of a greater, larger. She wants him guilty of treason. Now, where is she when Orange reigns? Anyways, so they go after him, and they ask him if he needs a lawyer, and they've given him Riker, and she questions Dr. Sati questions Dr. Crusher again, and she asks him if she observed him with Dejan, and Crusher says, yeah, when he gave him his injections. And Sati says, outside of sickbay. And I said, well, maybe they were around in 10 forward. And Crusher was like, I don't understand what the relevance is. It was just a social gathering. And Sati goes after Crusher, like, if it was so innocent, why are you not divulging names? And the 1950s, all those communist things too. You know, you can go as long as you name all these people, and you just invent people to name so that you can go free. It's just a witch hunt. It's just so uncomfortable. This whole episode was just very, very uncomfortable, and it just didn't sit well with me. So they go after him, and then they go after Sarchises, and they go after him, and they lie to him and tell them in front of all these other people in the room. So they're going to spread this rumor, which is untrue, completely untrue. We've heard from Geordi and Data that the equipment was defective. It was defective equipment. But no, they lie in front of all these people that could spread the rumor that there was a bomb. All these people, the mob mentality, all these people can go tell all these other people who would tell all these people. And the rumor was spread through the ship like wildfire. So to tell this false lie it's just not right. It's not right. It's not right. And then they uncover the thing about his grandfather, and they nail him to the wall. And then Worf is riding the gravy train of this conspiracy theory, and he's also pursuing it. And he's giving orders. He's shown later giving orders. So then Worf is with Captain Picard, and Picard had witnessed him giving orders that he's to track Tarthus's movement. He wants a list of all relative known associates, school friends, everything. And Picard says, I need to talk to you, Worf. And Picard says, do you see what's happening here? Sir, this is not unlike a Drumhead trial. But Worf says, I do not understand. He says, 500 years ago, military officers would upend a drum on the battlefield, sit at it, and dispense summary justice. Decisions were quick, punishment severe, appeals denied. Bing, 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 bing. She thinks it's 10. So decisions were quick, punishment severe, appeals denied. Those who came to a drumhead were doomed. But Worf says, but we know there is a traitor here. Jadan has admitted his guilt. Picard says, that is true, and he will stand for his crimes. Darcy says, all but done the same. How? But Worf says he refused to answer the question about his Romulan grandfather. Picard, it is not a crime, Worf, nor can we infer his guilt because he didn't respond. Sir, if a man were not afraid of the truth, he would answer. Oh no, we cannot allow ourselves to think that. The seventh guarantee, one of the most important rights granted by the Federation. We cannot take a fundamental principle of the Constitution and turn it against a citizen. Sir, the Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out. Picard says, oh yes, that's how it starts. but the road from legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia is very much shorter than we think. Something is very wrong here, Mr. Worf. I don't like what we have become. And then Picard is having a discussion with Tarsis, and Tarsis tells him about his life and his life at the academy, and how he was really happy when he got to the Enterprise, and how he used to sit on this bench on this tree, and he used to sit under the tree and watch the Joes and picture myself an officer. I know that it would have made my mother happy, but you didn't do it because of no. I was 18 and eager. The last thing I wanted to do was spend 4 years sitting in classrooms. I wanted to be out there traveling the stars. I didn't want to wait for anything. And now it's done, is it? My career is over. Because there's not if you aren't guilty, Simon. Tarsi says, it doesn't matter. I lied on my application, and my mistake will be with me for the rest of my life. And Picard's like, she's trying to, he believes the kid. He understands the kid's situation. But the other one, so then Picard is trying to stop her. He's trying to halt her investigations. He's coming up to her. He would like to have a word with her, and in private and off the record. So then she decides it's him. She's going to go after him now. She had this little target, this little boy, this little innocent boy that she was going after, and she was going to nail his butt to the floor if it was the last thing she did. She was really determined, and she was going to do this, and she was going to do it. And now Picard is trying to stop her. So now she's decided she's going to go after Picard with guns blazing, with everything she's got. She's going to nail his butt to the wall. She talks about her family and her parents and how she doesn't have a life. She said the Federation is everything to her. She travels around, and Picard says the hearings on Simon Tarsis will stop right now, and he will go to Starfleet Command, and she's like, well, I've already been to Starfleet Command, and Picard's like, you didn't tell me you did this. And she's like, well, I don't have to tell you anything. I outrank you and all this kind of stuff. So they get the higher-ups involved. And he says, Admiral, what you're doing is unethical, immoral, and he'll fight it. And she's like, you do what you must, but so will I. She's got this vengeance. She's going to do this. She's going to fight the good cause, the wrong cause, the immoral cause, she's got it in her head cause that she's right and you're wrong, and that's the end of it. It's a whole, and if she gathers these people with her, she could have a mob mentality, and then it's all done. It's just wrong. It's totally, absolutely wrong. So like I said, now she's decided she's going to go after Picard, and she's going to use her people to do it. And she's got all these people in audience. She's got all these people there, and she's going to do the mob mentality thing, and she's going to throw the book at Picard. Everything she's got, she's going to go after him because she's right and he's wrong, and she wants to pursue this kid, and he's trying to stop her from pursuing the kid, and she's going to pursue the kid. Oh, I got it. Saban says your name, Jean-Luc Picard. Saban says rank and position, Captain, Federation Starship Enterprise. How long have you been here? 3 years. Very well, Admiral. If you don't mind, there's something I'd like to say. Sati, if you have a statement, you have an opportunity to make it later. Picard says, I believe that Chapter 4, Article 12 of the Uniform Code of Justice grants me the right to make a statement before questioning begins. She's like, okay. He says, I'm very deeply concerned by what is happening here. It began when we apprehended a spy, a man who admitted his guilt and who answered for his crime. But the hunt did not end there. Another man, Mr. Simon Tarsis, was brought to trial, and it was a trial no matter what others choose to call it. A trial based on insinuation and innuendo. Nothing substantive offered against Mr. Tarsis, much less proven. Mr. Tarsis' grandfather is Romulan, and for that reason, his career now stands in ruins. How have we become so fearful? have we become so cowardly that we must distinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy? Admiral, let's not condemn Sarmantisus or anyone else because of their bloodlines or investigate others for their innocent associations. I implore you, do not continue with this proceeding. End it now. And even today, racism is taught in the home. If you put a white kid and a black kid in a room with absolutely no outside influence, they will become friends. They will judge each other on their own merits. But if you raise the white child in a home that's racist, they will teach the white child to hate the black child, even though the white child has never met the black child. But they're two people. They are people. Everybody is a person. Everybody has blood. Everybody has two arms and a leg, except if they were injured or born deformed or whatever. But they're still people. They're all still people. Doesn't matter which, and technically, and I point this out to you, everybody in the United States is an immigrant because we all came from other countries, except the Native Americans. They were the only ones here first. We all came from other countries, and then we exploited and bought and populated the here. But we started out other places. Trace your family tree. And Sati just goes off on Picard. She just goes off on him. She goes after him about the Prime Directive. She says he's violated it 9 times. And she brings up the Vulcan ambassador thing, who turned out to be a traitor. And Picard let her go because otherwise they would have started a war, and he didn't want to start a war, and he was justified in his actions. And then she goes after him about being Borg, and she just keeps going after him. And Worf tries to defend the captain, and she's going to go after Worf now because maybe he's got Romulan friends, and she just goes off. And she goes really off on him, and she says, there are some words I've known since I was a schoolboy. With the first link, the chain is forged. The first speech censured, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied. Chain us all irrevocably. Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Sati as wisdom and warning. The first time any man's freedom is trodden on, we're all damaged. I fear that today. I fear that next year. I fear something. If the wrong person, we could be in a dictatorship soon, and all rights could be gone. I'll read my Betrayal City, the Victoria Thompson. It's the woman's right to vote, Confederate. I really went off on a cliff on that one. But Sati comes after him. How dare you? You consort with the Romulans, invoke my father's name to support your traitorous arguments. It's an offense to everything I hold dear. What a great man. He stands for integrity, and she explodes. And the trial comes to an end, and that's it. It's over. And the Admiral, the Starfleet people walk out. So then, at the end, Worf and Picard are talking alone. It's over. Admiral Henry has called an end to any more hearings on this matter. That's good. Admiral Sati has left the Enterprise. Picard says, we think we've come so far. The torture of heretics, the burning of witches, it's all ancient history. Then, before you blink an eye, it suddenly threatens to start all over again. Worf says, I believed her. I helped her. I did not see what she was. Picard says, Mr. Worf, villains who twirl their mustaches are easily to spot. Those clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged. Worf says, I think after yesterday, people will not be as ready to trust her. Picard says, maybe, but she or someone like her will always be with us, waiting for the right climate in which to flourish. Spreading fear in the name of righteousness. Vigilance, Mr. Worf. That is the price we have to pay for continually pay. And there ends our episode. So, Drumhead comes to an end. So I hope I didn't go too overboard with my newspaper writings. If you are still here, um, uh, I'll read a little bit more of this if you are still here and interested in it. We learned that on Saturday evening last, great excitement was created in the neighborhood by the announcement that a brutal murder had been committed in the vicinity. After some inquiry, our informant ascertained the following facts is reference to the deed. The suspicions of the people living in the neighborhood have been aroused by the prolonged absence of the man named Henry Martin, who had been by 2 weeks missed from his home at Moses Point, where he resided with his wife Rebecca, two stepsons, and a stepdaughter. People proceeded to the house on Saturday evening last and accused the wife of murdering the missing man. This she sternly denied and stated that she knew nothing of the whereabouts of her husband. However, on being questioned, Ralph Smith said, said that about 2 weeks ago he was awakened from his sleep by hearing something fall heavily on the floor, and on becoming thoroughly aroused, saw his stepfather down and his mother standing over him, with an iron pedal in her hand. Then she told him that she would kill him too if he did not help to finish his father. He did, and the murdered man was afterwards hidden behind the door until the next evening, when he was taken out and thrown into a creek nearby. Lying made the whole thing up. And they're going to hang her. At 3 o'clock, it goes on. A couple days later, they bring in a judge, all that kind of stuff. At 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, they were again examined, and the wife stated that Martin was not dead, but gone to look for a place to which to move his family. The children contradict this, giving the evidence above mentioned. The whole party were then placed in a house and guarded till Monday morning, when the murderess confessed that she had committed the deed. This she repeated before a judge. So mob mentality. And then the husband comes home and, like I said, says that I didn't enlarge. However, we learned that quite an accusation was created at Blossom Hill last week by the reappearance of the supposed victim, who, upon hearing identified, obtained and released his wife and stepchildren, gave them some tobacco, shouldered the iron pedal which it was alleged that he had been murdered, and left for his house after boasting that he had had better of the authorities by several weeks' board for the greater portion of his family. We have received the following letters reference to this affair. So his family got room and board and food for a couple of weeks while he was off. Mob mentality. So I hope you will. We did the drumming today. I hope you will join me next week for Half a Life, and then the week after the host, and after that the Mind's Eye. Every Friday we are here. Please check me out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Most appreciative. Thank you.